Today we're going to go through a tour of how I use Wikipedia search inside of my Notion database and how I specifically save search result queries from Wikipedia. Last week we did more of like a beginner's video. This week this is going to be more for like novice and advanced, but also not. I'm not really going through the back end here. I'm just going through the front end and showing you my workflow, essentially, for taking notes and for looking for information. So just the first step. I have something I want to look up, and I want to go to Wikipedia and start looking around. Maybe go through that Wikipedia article, go down to the sources, save those pages with an extension called Save to Notion, and really go from there. So I'm just going to show you that cycle and sort of the front end of things, right? So just using that template. And of course, that template is down below. So the first thing we're going to do is start creating some notes. So this Notes with Search database is acting like a notebook. This is where I put in my notes. Now, my actual notes database has all of these properties. This is sort of a simplified version of it. If you see my Zettelkasten video, those are pretty much the other properties I have, more or less. So the first note, let's say in this example, is fall of the Roman Empire. Like I said, what I'm doing in here is saving queries mostly, but technically you can create links to main pages. Like you'll see here, this wiki URL formula just populated for me a wiki link to what looks like a page called Fall of the Roman Empire. It's taking the name of my note and putting it at the end of this address. And if I want to copy this address and save it inside of my wiki links property, which is a files and media property, if you go into property type, there are two different ways to save links in Notion. You have that files and media property, but you also have a URL property. And the reason I'm not using URL is because I want to save multiple links and I want to save multiple queries or multiple search results. If I want to copy it, again, I'm going to make sure I go into this cell, click out, make sure it's highlighted blue, copy and paste. And I'm going to go over to that embed link option, embed it, and I can actually rename this as well. So I'm going to rename it to main. If it is a Wikipedia page that I want to save specifically, and it is in direct connection to the title of the note, I will call it main. If I click out of it and I click this button that I've just created, this link called main, it will send me to Fall of the Western Roman Empire. So this time it worked. It doesn't always work. You're kind of guessing with Wikipedia, but one thing that's really nice about Wikipedia is that you'll see that the title of this page is not Fall of the Roman Empire, but Fall of the Western Roman Empire. So it's taking sort of the closest match. Most of the time it does do this. It redirects you. This is just one search type. This is just taking the title. We can do another search type. I have three that I use primarily. This would be considered a title search. I can also use this property over here called search box to do a separate search. So if I'm writing my notes within this note page and I want to search something on Wikipedia, let's say in this instance right now we're just going to search for a page. We'll do that again, but I want to use this search box. You'll see that it has cleared. So let's say I want to search Roman Empire. I have created another unique link. Again, I'm clicking inside that cell, clicking out, making sure it's highlighted blue, and adding the next link. So if I am going and finding a main or a wiki page and not a query that is not the title of the note, I call it SB, which is short for search box. And I'm just going to rename this to the actual search box query, which is Roman_Empire or Roman Emp. And if I click through to this, it should give me the Wikipedia article for Roman Empire because it is a prominent name and most likely has a Wikipedia page. Let's say I want to make a search inside of Wikipedia that is a general keyword search of the Roman Empire. So I don't want to get that main page, I just want to get a search result. What I'm going to do before this search keyword is I'm going to put in a star. And what this does is it prompts my wiki URL formula to give me the index search page instead. So again, I'm copying that blue highlight, going into here, embed link, embedding that link and renaming it to query, and I'm naming the query, so I'm just going Roman_imp. And that search result will pop up. Now, unlike finding the main pages of a Wikipedia article, this will always work, this search result, but finding that main page is a hit or miss. So the next thing we're going to do is look at another shortcut that I like to use. I like to use this section key. It's called a section key. I know on a Mac it is, instead of the star, we're going to go option 6. You'll see that we have another index search URL. I'm going to copy it and just quickly put it in here. And I'm going to rename this to query:_timeline_Roman_emp. And when I go to it, it should give me search results not just for Roman Empire, but Roman Empire timeline. And then I can see timeline of Roman history and come into here. Let me show you another search type that I have in here. I have this little symbol here, this green one. Let's do another note, and let's call it George Washington's presidency. Now in here, I don't want to search for a wiki URL that is George Washington's presidency. It'll probably just redirect me, honestly, to the main George Washington page. But for the sake of example, let's isolate what I want inside of this title to search for. That would be George Washington. I'm going to isolate it within parentheses. Now, what I like to do with stuff like this, if there is a proper noun like this that I know has a main Wikipedia page, I'll use parentheses to just isolate it really quickly and throw it in here so I don't have to like type it into the search box. That's really the only time I use it mostly. And I can just copy that into wiki links and again, call it probably main. And I'll be able to see the George Washington Wikipedia page. Okay, so that is pretty much how this database works. In my database, I have more like of these shortcuts. I don't just have that timeline symbol and the search all symbol, but these are the two I use the most. So that's what I included in this template. Another nice little trick that might be useful for people who are like, I don't really want to use this database or this template. I think it's like interesting, but not into it. This little button might be a cool thing to add to your notes database and sort of pin it to the top of the database. And that is a random article link into Wikipedia. So Wikipedia has this random article feature where upon clicking it, you get a random article, right? So I can just tuck this at the top of the database by typing special:_random, and this has no spaces. And what I'm going to do is just click title. I don't have to click title. You'll see that if I take it away, nothing happens. I just like having it here to fill in empty space. Okay, so in here, I'm just going to, again, blue highlight, copy, embed link, and I'm going to go to rename, and I'm just going to call it random article, and it'll create this button that will send me to a random article. I can come back and click it again, and it'll send me to another random article. If I want to pin this to the top of my database, I'm just going to click pin, and if I go to sort, and I make sure that pin is descending. So moving on through this workflow, let's look at the fall of the Roman Empire. So you'll see that there's this property called archived links. This is connected to links. So what's the difference between these wiki links and this archived links? But really, I use this primarily for queries, and then archived links are like linked pages. So when I go to one of these queries here, timeline of Roman Empire, and I want to save one of these pages from here back into my notes, going into Byzantine Empire maybe, and I want to save that to fall of the Roman Empire. Okay, well, I can just go to my Save to Notion extension, link down below, and create a form called links. I'm going to show you how it's configured. So I do have also a video on Save to Notion if you want to get more into how this extension works. But going into links, we're going to see that there is an option for a workspace to choose from, a database to choose from. For me, I am finding links, which is here. And I have an option to save page content, which for this instance and most instances, I do not click because it is a bit much if you're doing research to have the entire body of the page inside of a page. Now inside of icon, I have the website icon. This is all sort of default. The URL is the page URL and the name is the page title. And notes is that relation. So if we go into linked database, you'll see that notes relation, of course, is connected to notes, and that's a two-way connection there. So if I go into notes, you'll see archived links. That's what we're dealing with here. I'm going to leave this unlocked so I can choose upon saving a link what note this will be connected to. So if I save, and it will prompt me to fill out this notes because I left it unlocked. I'm just going to find the fall of the Roman Empire. Save to Notion, and it should appear inside of our archived links. Now, if I want to add more to this page, let's say I want to create an outline or just grab some tidbits from this article. I like putting it inside of the page I saved. So notes that I'm grabbing from the source, I'm just copying and pasting from the source. And what's nice about Save to Notion is if I want to highlight something from the body of the page, I can quickly do that. So let's say I want to highlight this here and I want to save it over to that page. I'm going to right click and click on this add to highlight button, and this comes with the extension. And it is highlighted to the body of the page we saved. And I can go back to Fall of the Roman Empire. Now the question is, yes, I saved that block to that page, but what good does that do me if I'm in other notes, and I want to grab it at some point? What I can do is use another extension called Evergreen for Notion. This is a pretty good extension, especially for people who are avid note takers, who are looking for more of a Zettelkasten evergreen approach in Notion, but aren't able to achieve that. You'll have this little green button up here at the top right-hand corner, and upon clicking it, you'll be able to see search results from the rest of your workspace. So let's say I want to grab that embed block, but I saved it a little while ago. I don't really remember it, but I'm in the middle of writing notes and I just want to find other notes that are related to North Africa. I can go over to this search option and just search in North Africa. And that block will appear. And this is within Search Wikipedia, Byzantine Empire, and North Africa will be highlighted within that block. Now what's really, really nice about this extension is that I can save specific blocks, not just pages. So if I click embed here, that will copy the block, and then I can paste it within the body of my notes wherever I'm at, and go to mention page. And what it will do is create this link, not to the page, but to the block. And it's actually kind of creating a page for the block as well, which is interesting. And you'll come up here to breadcrumbs, or in the top left-hand corner, to see the parent, which is Byzantine Empire. So that's pretty much the entire cycle of my workflow. I'm saving queries with this method that we went through in the beginning, and I'm saving pages with the classic sort of a web clipper, or not the native web clipper from Notion, but that Save to Notion extension.